Well, so today's topic that we need to discuss is the concept of demand and derived demand, right? Today we'll try to understand this concept here in detail. Okay, what is demand and what is derived demand, and as I expect that you people already studied during your BSc third semester when you have a introduction of economics has been going on. So I will try to add something, and if you again when the discussion will be there, so if you have any question, if any concept that is not clear to you, you can immediately ask a question here, right? So let's start the topic. So first we need to understand what is demand. What is demand? This the word, what is the meaning of this word demand, and how we need to understand that certain activity is known as demand. So if an activity is all these three component, then that is demand. First, desire mere your intention, right? That is desire. And their ability, right? That not only you have a desire, but also you have that much strength, that much financial strength, you can say that you are able to pay that for that. And willingness, it means no one going to force you, it is totally your own desire, right? Your own willingness, you are paying on your own intention, no one going to force you. So that is demand. Is it clear? So here you need to understand that what is demand. So demand is a combination of your desire, then your ability to pay, and willingness to pay too, right? If you simplify it, the meaning or it can implies what implies that desire to acquire something, whatever be the intention you have, whatever the goods and services you want, or you have intention to get that, right? So desire is to acquire that, and ability and willingness, it means you have intention to pay that on your own, no one going to force you, it's totally your own intention, your own ability. So both ability and willingness should be there, then this kind of activity you can say that it is a demand, right? So again I am repeating how going to understand the demand. So demand means the number of quantity that individual has to acquire, or the goods and services that an individual has to acquire, and the individual has ability to pay and also willingness to pay there, that is demand, right? Generally the perception is that demand is only desire, whatever you want, whatever you need is desire. So needs and wants are unlimited, but it is very difficult for an individual to pay for all of his or her needs and wants. Is it clear? So here if you talk about the desire or your needs or your wants or your the goods and services that is required for your livelihood, you must have a strength to pay for that, and whatever the paying you are doing is totally on your own activity. There is no enforcement, or there is no any kind of forceful activity. That is demand, right? So demand is desire plus ability to pay plus willingness to pay, right? So desire to acquire it, willingness to pay for it, and ability to pay for it. This is the meaning of demand. So I hope the word is clear to all of you. Is there any question from this word? Fine. Now the question is how we can say that is demand. If you have any desire, or if you have any kind of needs and wants, so how the activity is known as demand. So we have to understand this thing here. If you have demand for a commodity means any goods and services, so these components should be there, then activity can be demand. First, quantity demanded, it means the number, how much is demanded, the price at which it is demanded, it means what the price that people has a willingness to pay or the ability to pay, and time period over which it is demanded, and market area, right? This four component is required, then the activity is called a demand. Again I am repeating, you people just look at the slide itself. Quantity demanding, it means whatever be your needs or wants, So that should be quantified, the number should be there, how many goods or how many services required, right? Then price at which demand, it means the individual ability to pay, at what price people are demanding that product or that commodity or that goods and service, and time period, right? When right, when it is demanded. And then market area, it means where it is demanded, right? Then it is called a demand for a commodity. See, commodity represents both goods and services. Is it okay? So if these four things will be there, then we can say that this is the demand for a certain commodity. So there is one example that is written over there to make you understand. This annual demand for Sony TV sets in Bangalore at an average price of is a piece 65. So everything is included here, right? It is quantity demanded, it is the price, right? It is annual, it means the time period, and that is commodity Sony TV, the place Bangalore. So whenever you are saying that there is a demand, if this kind of sentence you are either hearing or you are saying on your own, so when you say that there is a demand for certain kind of X or Y product, it means all these demand should have these component. It means the number, it means quantity, then the price, then the time period, and the market. It means where it is demanded. So that is called demand for a commodity, right? So I hope this concept is also clear to all of you. Right? So if you have any question or any doubt in between this only one term that I have discussed with you, demand, I have just explained the meaning of demand and how you can say that this kind of activity is called as a demand. Fine. So let's move to the next concept here. So now we need to understand the demand schedule. What is demand schedule here? So again, it's not a bit difficult concept to understand. So schedule is a tabular representation of demand. A tabular representation of demand. So what does it mean? It means in the last slide we have seen that the quantity demanded and the price. Quantity demanded and the price. So when you are representing all this information in a tabular form, right? In a tabular form, it is quantity that is required and the price for that. When this information has been represented in a tabular form, then that is called demand schedule, right? So let me show you one example, then you can easily understand that. So this is the example. Here the price will be there and the quantity demanded. You have to tabulate all the information for a product X, right? So you are just doing all this market survey or any kind of research work you are doing, or you are just representing the information in a tabular form. Okay, price, if price is A, so the quantity demanded is Y. If price is B, so quantity demanded is Z, something like that. You are just representing the information in a tabular form. So that is called demand schedule, right? So a tabular representation of demand that has been and what the information this table contains. So I told you quantity of good or that a buyer is willing to purchase at a different price. So quantity of good and the price, these two information has to included in this table, right? That is demand schedule, right? Now we are doing the demand curve. Now the same information, whatever the information you are incorporating in a tabular form, now you are representing the same information in a graph. If the graphical representation has been made, that is called a demand curve, right? Because you have just look at the note that information has been written over there, that both the demand curve and the demand schedule will describe the same information, right? It means, so when you collecting the data related to the quantity of good and the price, either you can represent or you can arrange the data in a tabular form or in a graphical form, right? Same information will be there. Is it okay? So, and this is the certain graph that you people can look at here. Price quantity, that is a demand curve, and the demand curve, everything. You just look at the it is a representation, simple representation of the data that is in a tabular form. So first you can make a table, and then you can represent the whole data in a graphical form. Is it okay? So in which we have a two x and y axis. So x, basically y axis always represent the price, and this x represents the quantity. So this kind of this kind of formation has to be there while just depicting the information in a graphical form. So that is called demand curve, right? Now after understanding these basics, now we need to understand the law of demand. What is the law of demand? It means how the demand function has to work. Is it? So now we need to understand that. So you just look at there this mathematical information. This Q represent the quantity demanded and P is price. So there is a inverse relation between quantity demanded and the price. It means if price will be more, quantity demanded will be less, and vice versa. Vice versa means if price will be less, quantity demanded will be more, right? But under certain condition. Is it okay? Now we go through this definition. You can easily understand that a decrease in the price of good, all other things held constant. This is the thing that we need to understand. Ki when this law holds to certain condition, it means certain things should be constant. It means we have to assume that certain aspect of human behavior or certain aspect of economic scenario is constant. Then this relation will hold. Then the law of demand will work. So what the law of demand said, that there is a inverse relation between quantity demanded and the price, which means if price will be more, quantity demanded will be less, and if price will be less, quantity demanded will be more, under certain constant condition, right? That is the law of demand, right? I'm going to explain you what the things that need to be constant. That is important to understand, because only that condition this law holds, otherwise it may fail somewhere. Is it clear? So this is one representation through the graphical method of the law of demand. As you look at here is the price and quantity. So just look at it, P0. If it is P0, then it is Q0, right? And if it is P1, quantity is Q1. So just look at the relation. Here the price is increasing, here the quantity is decreasing, isn't it? If you look at here, because you can easily understand that P1 is greater than P0. If you see the graph, P1 is greater than P0, whereas if you look at this condition, Q1, it means quantity demanded at the price P1 is less than Q0, isn't it? So this is the inverse relation. This is the law of demand. It means increase in price causes a decrease in quantity demanded, right? And the vice versa will also hold here. Is it okay? If you go for this, again the same thing has been there. Now here the price is decreasing. So just look at the graph, P0, Q0 and P1, Q1. So the new price P1 is less than P0. So now we change the quantity. So quantity has been shifted from Q0 to Q1. So where Q1 is more than the Q0. So what as per the law of demand, as you have understood, there is an inverse relation. So increase in price, it means there is a decrease in quantity demanded, whereas decrease in price, there is increase in quantity demanded under certain constant conditions that we are going to discuss, right? But before we are moving ahead, is there any question up to this point? So after understanding this basic concept, now we can understand the demand in a certain new way. So demand definition revisited, it means now you may have some other definition for that also. So what the demand? Relationship between price and the quantity demanded, keeping all other things remaining constant, right? What the first slide show that the demand is desire plus ability to plus willingness to pay. But after understanding some more components, some more information, or the more knowledge of the demand, we have this new definition. You can say that relationship between price and quantity demanded, keeping all other things constant. Now the question is that what the other things that we hold constant, that need to understand here, because if the constant will not be there, as I told you, the law of demand will not hold. It means there should not be inverse relation between price and quantity. There are certain assumptions that certain activity should be held constant, then the law of demand will be there. So now we need to understand what the other things need to be constant. So one I like to discuss. So these things need to be constant. First, consumer preference, and I'll explain you, but you all have to keep that relation in your mind, right? What the relation? Inverse relation. Quantity is law of demand, quantity and price relation. So as we all know that, as the relation suggests, if more price less demand, less quantity will be there, and more less price more quantity will be there. But when this relation will hold? If the consumer preference is constant, if it means there is no change in the consumer preference, or you can say that the taste for a product relative to another product, right? Again try to understand that when this relation will hold, this inverse relation will hold, if this is constant, it means consumer preference or the consumer taste. If there is no change in consumer taste or preference related to the other product, right, then this relation will hold. If there is a change in your taste, see, as I told you, whenever you have to understand the economics, right, it is also a study of individual behavior, your psychology, how do you behave. So you can relate the things easily here itself. As an individual, think over that, right? If the price will be more, suddenly you people have to discard the quantity. Why? Because of your taste, right? Because of you are not changing your taste. If you are going to change your taste, obviously the relation will not hold. You may shift to some other product rather than going for the same product and consuming less amount of that particular specific product, right? You can switch to some other product. So it is very difficult to hold this relation. If price will be more, quantity demanded will be less. You are changing your preference, and there is no law of demand will be act there. So that's why these things need to be constant, your taste and your preference. So you keep yourself in the position, you can easily understand the concept, right? So that is consumer's preference. Is it clear? If this point is clear, how these things, if these things will be constant, then the law of demand will be there. Isn't it? Now the consumer information. Second thing is the consumer information. It means since you are consuming a certain product X and you don't have any information on some other relative product or some other similar product, it means your information is limited, right? Have you get that? So if relation will be limited, you don't have some more detail about some other product, so obviously you are stick to the one product which you are consuming. So if price of that particular product will be more, obviously you have to slow down your consumption behavior or consumption habit there, right? Is it clear up to this? ये second point clear है? And another way you can also understand that if some new information is available to the consumer, so if some new information the consumer have, then it can result, you can say that it can result in a change in the quantity that consumer buy of a certain good, even the price does not change, right? So information is there. Now consumer income, obviously this is very important to understand. Consumers income, right, isn't it? So if income will be increased, right, listen carefully, if more income will be there, right, so on the basis of their increase or decrease, or you can say the constant income will be there, on the basis of that quantity of goods and services has been demanded, right? So if individual income is constant and if price is rising, so obviously he has to reduce his consumption of certain commodity, isn't it? So but if it is also growing with the price, so obviously this law will not work there. So and obviously you can understand that aspect in these things very clearly, that central government employee, obviously they are getting this DA and everything has been increment as per the inflation, and it means how the price has to be changed, right? So if the price rise is there and also income is also increasing, so obviously the people are going to consume the same level of quantity, whatever be the product the individual are consuming themselves, isn't it? But if the income is constant, if income will constant, so obviously this law will work there. It means more price will be there, so as an individual you are going to reduce your quantity consumption. Is it clear? Up to this point everything is clear to all of you? Fine. And there is two things that we need to understand also with related to this consumer income. There is two kind of goods, that is normal goods and inferior goods. So I hope you all know that what is normal goods, but let me explain you again what is normal goods. So basically normal goods are those goods which demand increases when the consumer income increases, right, and its demand decreases when the consumer income decreases. Listen carefully again, what is the normal goods is. Normal good means the goods whose demand is increasing with the increment of income and decreasing with the decrease in income, right? For example, you can say that some luxurious item, you can say that, right, cars or jewelry. So if the individual income is growing, so obviously the demand for car, demand for jewelry will be more. If income will be less, so demand will be less. And as per the inferior goods, right, inferior goods means just opposite of that. It means if demand will be increases when the income will be more. Try to understand that properly. Inferior good means demand will be more, right, sorry, demand will be less if income will be more, right? And opposite to that, it means if income will be less, demand will be more. So let me explain you what does it mean, right? For the individual X, try to understand that currently his income is Y, isn't it? And he is consuming certain product. For example, he is just consuming any brand of rice which cost it means minimum cost is, right, as for example the price is 1 rupees per kg. He is just consuming that rice, just take an example. And when its income will rise, so what do you think? He is supposed to consume more rice of 1 kg, 1 rupees kg? Obviously not. He will switch over to some more quality product, right? So if he is moved to some other brand of rice, it means the demand for that particular rice is decreasing. Have you get that? Is inferior goods. It means when your income will rise, so demand will decrease, and income will decrease, demand will increase. Is it clear? Have you understand both normal and inferior goods? Have you get the concept here? Normal and inferior. law of demand will hold if all these factors hold constant. It means the preference should be constant, information is constant, income is constant. Now the next is number of consumer in the market. Obviously, if the there is no rise in population or there is no change in the number of households there, so if the number of consumer is constant, right, then obviously the law of demand will work there. Is it clear? This is the very simple thing that one need to understand. If it is constant, that the law of demand will work. But if there is an increase in consumer level, so obviously there is an increase in demand too, right? And if there is a decline in the number of consumer, which result in smaller demand for goods or services. Have you get that? So if this number of consumer in the market is constant, then obviously if more price means less quantity, less price means more quantity will be there, right? Then consumers expectations of future, right? Consumer expectations of future. So now if you have if you are expecting, right, if some there because of one or two reason the price has to rise or some other things will happen, right? So as an individual you are going to anticipate that kind of changes, right? So if this kind of expectations will be there, so it has a result on the quantity demanded and both price. So let me give you a very simple example. Nowadays the thing is not happening, but if you look back to some 3 or 4 years back or something like that, when there is information that from the today midnight there is a there will be a price rise in petrol, then you have seen that in the same morning what kind of line is there to get the petrol, and the individual has to fill their tank with the petrol. Okay, tomorrow the price will be rise, and suddenly the demand has been zoomed up. Have you get that? So that is consumers expectations of future. It means if people expect the price of a good will increase, they will buy it before the price increase, and if they expect that the price of a good to decrease, they will wait before the price drops. So consumer expectations is there, right? And then we have a price of closely related goods. Again it has an impact on this quantity demanded and price. So there is two clauses, substitutes and complements. So substitute means replacement. So if you have a two for take example of this two beverages brand, for example we have two cold drink X and Y, right? I am not supposed to quote any brand here. So if the price of Y will be more, obviously since both are same, so you can replace, right? We can change your behavior, so you are shifting to X immediately, right? That is called substitute. It means it has the almost same characteristics whatever the goods you are using. And complements means those goods that is used together, for example if you have to consume tea, so what the basic material required? You need a tea leaf, then you need a milk, you need a sugar, right? So how the things has to be varied? If the price of sugar will be more, so obviously and since there is no growth in your income, then what you will do? You are supposed to curtail your consumption of tea, isn't it? So the things will work accordingly. So demand will tea will also less because the price of sugar is more there. Similarly, if the price of milk will shoot up, so again you have to reduce the consumption of some other complement goods, so that as per your income you are able to maintain your livelihood. So these are the things that need to be constant, right? Then this law of demand will work. So these things one should understand that while talking about the law of demand. keeping you people already studied the definition where this term ceteris paribus or keeping other things constant has to be written over there. So what the things has to be constant, that I have explained you. These things need to be constant. As you look at here, keeping all other things held constant, ceteris paribus. Generally in book or everywhere this term you will use ceteris paribus, means keeping all other things constant. So these are the things that need to be constant, then this law of demand will hold, otherwise it may fail. Is it clear? So up to this point all the concept is clear to all of you? Yeah. So after understanding the basics of the demand and the law of demand, so we reach up to this point. The curve you have already seen that, because there is a inverse relation, so this kind of demand curve you are able to witness there, isn't it? This is the demand curve where we have seen that downward sloping, right? Try to understand that, all of you, keep it here your mind. So this is the demand, because we know that quantity and price relation, more price less quantity, less price more quantity. So on the basis of that assumption, if you are going to make a graph or you are representing this information in a graphical form, so you will get this demand curve, that is called demand curve, and this demand curve is downward sloping. Downward sloping, it means less price more quantity, more price, quantity is decreasing. So because of this thing, there is a downward sloping of demand curve. Now the reason is that why there is downward sloping of the demand curve. So this is the causes, the basic cause: the law of diminishing marginal utility, the substitution effect, income effect, new buyers, old buyers, right? So on the basis of that, the demand curve is downward sloping. So I like to explain you how the things has to be there, but before moving further, I am asking all of you, because we have already studied that, what is law of diminishing marginal utility? So this is one of the basis for downward sloping of demand curve. So now we all try to understand what does it mean, diminishing marginal utility. It means, let me give you a very simple example. You take example of the class itself. If there will be a continuous class, 4 or 5 lectures continuously, or say 7 or 8 lectures continuously, so what will happen if you are sitting in a morning and you are participating in all these lectures? Obviously by the time more and more class will be there, the utility will decrease. It means you are going to lose the interest when there is a more and more class will be there. So that is diminishing marginal utility, right? Fine. So here utility is very much related with the satisfaction. It means you are going to lose the satisfaction or interest by by consuming the more and more same product. That is diminishing marginal utility, right? Or if I have to simplify, so you can say that with each increasing quantity of commodity, the marginal utility is going to decline, right? Utility means degree of usefulness, right? The usefulness for that commodity or the product or services is going to lose the kind of satisfaction that you get by consuming the very first unit. Yes, that is called law of diminishing marginal utility. So now we have to understand how this law of diminishing marginal utility is has a cause for this downward sloping of demand curve. So try to understand properly. So so what will happen if the quantity of good will be more? So marginal utility of the commodity is less. It means the satisfaction level will be less. Try to understand, right? If you are consuming more number of goods, so you are getting less and less satisfaction level. So if your satisfaction level is going to decrease, it means your marginal utility is going to decrease. So if this kind of phenomena will be there, then as a consumer you are not going to pay more price for the commodity and demand will decline. Is it clear? Right? Have you get the concept here? Ki how this law of diminishing marginal utility will work here for this downward sloping of demand curve. Again I am repeating, listen carefully again. Ki when the quantity of good is more, right? So obviously the marginal utility of the commodity is less, right? So more quantity, less marginal utility, and basis on that, as a consumer, no one going to pay more price for the commodity because you are losing the satisfaction or you are losing the interest for that goods, right? And its demand will decline. Have you get that? And the vice versa, and because of that we are getting this downward sloping of demand curve. Is it clear to all of you? Have you get the concept? Good. Now rest is simple. Now you can easily understand that rest. Now the substitution effect. How the substitution effect has a result in downward sloping. So substitution means you are replacing the one good with another same characteristics of good. For example, as I told you, tea and coffee, you can say the substitute good. Simple, very simple example. So what will happen if there is a rise in price of tea? You can switch over to coffee. So it means if there is a rise in price, so quantity demanded of tea is decline, isn't it? So this law is hold here again. So substitution effect will be there. If two product that is a similar property or the characteristic, so if price of one product will be more, so people has a intention to shift themselves to the another product of same characteristics which has a less price, right? So substitution effect will be there, and because of that you can say that, right? Income effect. So how the income effect has result in this kind of curve. So first we need to understand what is income. So income effect basically refers to the purchasing power of the consumer, right? This income effect. So basically change in you can say that change in the purchasing power of the consumer or the individual, right? So if price level will fall, right, so what will happen, the price if price will be less, so the purchasing power of the consumer will going to increase, and the consumers can buy more and more goods. Is it clear? So income, again I am repeating, income effect basically refers to the change in real income, or you can say that the purchasing power of the consumer, right? So if price is going to decline, consumer is going to buy more goods, as you have seen that despite I don't know what kind of deceptive activities that, but when there is a sale of any clothing or any kind of product, if the board sale has been go sell, then this is one human psychology. Sale means will get less price for the product. If less price is there, the demand for that product is more, isn't it? So because of that, this downward sloping of the demand curve will be there. It means less price, more quantity demanded, right? Then new buyers, obviously if price of certain commodity will going to decrease, right? So new buyer will going to attract toward that product. Try to understand how the new buyer has the impact on this quantity and product relation. If the product of certain commodity is going to decrease, obviously new buyers get attracted towards it and buy it. So if more buyer will come into the picture, so obviously the demand will going to decrease. Is it clear? And then for the old buyers, obviously old buyers, they have a simple proper relation with the product properly. So if price will be less, so more and more quantity will be demanded for the same product by the old buyer too. So is there any question from this? Cause of downward sloping, the cause I have already explained to you, the law of diminishing marginal utility, substitution effect, income effect, new wires and old wires, how they tend to make impact, so that we will get this kind of demand curve here. Fine. So types of demand, okay, so better I like to discuss these types of demand in next session, so I will conclude the session here itself. Is it up to this causes of downward sloping of demand curve? So I have already discussed with you this, the definition of demand, then I have discussed with you the demand definition revisiting, then the law and all this, the constant factor and the causes. So I like to conclude the session here itself. So now if you have any